why are we here tonight? Uh, what we want to do is, talk about the frustration after the November election, and I'm sure many of us are very frustrated. Certainly, I am. So, I want to start with sharing with you the things that most frustrate me as a volunteer in Maryland, and then give you a second to add any other ones that you'd like to throw in as part of that. I'm sick and tired of looking down at the ballot and only having the choices that are the lesser of two evils. Sometimes the lessers of two significant evils. Were you excited about any of the national candidates on the ballot in November? The last national candidate I was excited about was Ronald Reagan for re-election. And go that far back. So what was the last candidate you were excited about? Anybody want to throw out a name? Okay. But what about Congress? To me, they seem to spend all their time trying to stop the other party from getting anything done, and nothing gets done. Only 3 times in the last 47 years has Congress passed a budget for the full fiscal year. This is probably one of the biggest causes of government inefficiency and waste, but the Republicans and Democrats are equally to blame. Congress has a 20% approval rating, but a 94% reelection rate. Why can't we? Oh, we got a Barack Obama. Okay, thank you. So why can't we get some people elected who want to work for us and do the things that we need? So what we'd like to do tonight is talk a little bit about why we are all so frustrated, and then talk about a few things that might make it possible for us to have more choices and get excited about some candidates and have people in office that listen to us and work for us. The entire electoral process in this country and in Maryland for state and local elections is totally under the control of the Democrats and Republicans. It's a duopoly that shuts out most of us from any meaningful role. It's government of the party, by the people, and especially for the party. Increasingly, both parties are moving more and more to the extremes, and those of us like me who are moderates are getting more and more left out. I ask people, when did bipartisan become a 4-letter word? Over 20% of the voters registered in Maryland are registered as independents, but there is no independent political party recognized in Maryland. It's lost its status in 2010. The only political party recognized in Maryland today, the Democrats, Republicans, and the Green Party. We plan to have a forward party add to that list, and we're shooting to do that in late 2026. Only the Republicans and Democrats run primaries in Maryland. Our taxpayers' dollars pay for them, but we have no say in anything about them. Only the Republicans and Democrats do. You have to be registered in one of those parties to vote in their primary, and the only choices you have on the ballot are the ones that the party leadership decided should be there for you to take a look at. The Democrats are the majority party in Maryland, and they have defined the ridiculous electoral districts that we have. Why do we have ridiculous districts? It's so the Democrats win the most of those districts and continue to hold the majority. What many people are unaware of is that 1 out of 4 people in the Maryland legislature was not initially elected to office. They were appointed by a committee. So we'll talk about this in a few minutes. So how do we fix this? If the electoral systems we have in Maryland are not changed, we'll continue to have the same ballots with the same choices we don't like, and elected officials going back to office and only care about making their political party look good and the other party look bad. So we're trying to work on some things that could fix that. Some things that we'd all like to see happen require amending the Constitution. Issues like the Electoral College are probably at the top of that list, term limits, campaign financing, and I'll venture to say I don't think I'll see any of those things happen in constitutional amendments in my lifetime. But there are 4 changes we think could happen to Maryland that would have a very positive impact on giving us more choices and get people elected who will put passing sensible legislation that we need ahead of party politics. For those to happen at the statewide level, we need to have some reforms passed at the city and county level, and starting at that level, Annapolis needs to pay attention to that, and some of those things be adopted statewide. This needs to be so we're looking at a bottoms-up, grassroots level effort to make some election reforms to get better people elected and help get these reforms in place. So the 5 things we're really looking at that could happen in Maryland are voting reforms like ranked choice voting to select who the winner is, revising partisan politics, so instead of Republican primary and a primary, Democratic primary, we have one primary, all the candidates and all the voters on that. We looked at ways to have sensible electoral districts instead of the ridiculous districts that we have right now. And instead of people just being appointed to office when there's a vacancy in there, we have special elections to make that happen. And we've got, as I'm talking to more and more of our volunteers and this growing, we've got people who've got interest that nobody's listening to. How can we give a better voice to all the different groups that are out there and help their representatives understand the things that they need? So those are the 5 things that we're working on as part of this. And we're going to go through and talk about those things. And then I'll finish up talking about the committees that we're having as part of that. So for each of these, I'm going to look at what's wrong with what we have now, what's an approach that would make it better, and what the folks who don't like that approach want to say are the reasons we shouldn't do it. So the first thing we need to look at is, how are we picking the people to win the election? So right now, let's look at how we do it today. So right now in Maryland, we have plurality voting. One vote, one person. And first place gets the person who gets one more vote than the person who gets the least amount of candidates like that. If we have 5 candidates voting, okay, somebody wins with 21%. Okay, with 3 candidates, they can win with 37%. Not majority voting, but that's what we have today. Majority voting says somebody's got to receive more than 51%. But to get there, that requires runoff elections, which are expensive and time consuming and frustrating, and people get confused. So we need to have a totally different approach. And there's several out there that are being talked up that are much better. Approval voting. Vote for as many people as you like, and whoever gets the most approval wins. Star voting. You know, if we buy anything on Google, okay, who's got the most stars and gives us the most reviews, that's one we want to look at. The one that's got the most traction right now in Maryland is ranked choice voting. And let's talk a little bit about how ranked choice voting is and what it does and how it works. So with ranked choice voting, go ahead.
Before you jump onto that, could we maybe open it up on the previous slide to see if anybody has any questions about the other types of voting?
Sure. Thank you.
Steve, I see a hand up. Go for it.
Yeah, no, I just would like to understand better how the approval voting works.
Yeah, so approval voting is you get typically the same ballots. You have the same choices that you can do, but now instead of only picking one, filling in the circle for one, you can fill in the circle for as many as you want. So if you're like, I like this person and this person and this person, and then what they do is they'll have a way to pull out basically the votes. So across the they do a little algorithm that shows that this person is approved by these people, this person is approved by those people, this person is approved by those people. So through those tallies, they can figure out which person most people.
I get it. Okay, I get it. So you're not ranking your preferences. I mean,
exactly. That's the main difference, is you're not ranking them.
Okay.
Everybody's equal once you put the bubble in.
Got you.
Thanks, Pete. So we're talking for tonight primarily about ranked choice voting because that one has got some real traction in Maryland. You know, Towson has already adopted, and I'll talk about some other folks who are very close to doing it. So if that's the one that most people seem to be interested in, let's get behind it. Would be, as the Maryland Forward Party, if one of the others was adopted, we just need a better way to do it. but this is the one that's got the most traction. So ranked choice voting gives voters the opportunity to rank candidates in order of their preference. And we're going to go through an example in the next slide to show how it works. The key is, by ranking the candidates, we have a way to do instant runoffs to get the candidate with the majority of votes, so people don't have to come back and vote again in runoffs. And that's really not worked well and very frustrating for folks as part of that. After the polls close and the ballots are tallied for how many ballots each candidate's number one, if none of them are number one on at least 51% of the ballots, a runoff's needed. And the computer works with the ballots and goes through a process to make that happen in about a second. So let's look at how that works. So here's my ballot for City Council Ward 8. And we've got 4 people running. Amy Adams is running as a Democratic candidate. Berta Boston is running as the Florist. Carla Casey as the Republican. And Darius Davis as the Green Party. So as a Florist, I gave my number one choice to Berta. I'm really not happy with the other choices, so I wrote in Bob Dylan as my number 2 choice there. And then Darius as the Green Party, and Casey as the Republican 4th, and last place was Andy as the Democrat. So that was my vote. So when they're all counted up, what were the results? Well, Andy ended up with 40%. You know, Democrats have the majority in Maryland. That's kind of understandable. But Berta came in second with 30%. Carla, the Republican, 20%, and Darius, the Green Party, 10%. So nobody got 51%. So with that, then the ranked voting then says, well, let's look at Darius and say, okay, who did Darius rank number 2 in terms of the votes that they cast? So in that, Darius was eliminated, and now a few of those voters gave Andy as their second choice, but a lot more of them gave Bertie the second choice. So now the Florist is putting a real race there against the Democrat in terms of who's going to win, but still we don't have a winner. So now we've got to look to Carla, the Republican candidate, and who were her second choices as part of that. When we do that, unfortunately, Republicans went a lot more for Andy than Berta, and Andy wins the election and Berta doesn't. But that process happens in seconds, and as a way of determining across all the voters and how they ranked them, Andy was the one who got the most support to be elected. So that's how ranked choice voting works. In any quick explanation, but any questions for folks on that and how it works? Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, not really on ranked choice voting. I understand that pretty well. Isn't star voting similar to ranked choice voting, but simpler? And is star voting used anywhere?
We don't see star voting used in a lot of different places. One of the main reasons is the voting machines are not necessarily, many of the voting machines are not set up to handle star voting, whereas they are set up to handle ranked choice voting. So Australia has been using ranked choice voting for 100 years. So all of the people who want to sell their voting machines have implemented ranked choice voting, but very few have implemented star. And so that's one of the...
I thought that the slide says that the voting machine were able to handle star. But anyway, so okay, all right, I got it. I mean, but conceptually, it works. I mean, in the end, you get about the same results that you would get with ranked choice voting.
Yeah, there's been some studies to show that star voting actually produces results that people are happier with than some of the other ones. But the voting machines are set up for approval voting, regular majority and plurality voting, and RCV, and very few for star.
Okay, all right. No, I'm all for ranked choice voting, but I just wanted to understand, if there is particular advantage to star voting. Okay, thanks.
So ranked choice voting gives us a way to look at many choices and identify the ones that have got the most support across the population as part of that. The winner has a clear majority of the votes from all the voters. Qualified minorities, women, independents, and others who have had difficulty getting on the ballot now have a chance to get on there and make their case to be elected. Instead of the lesser of two evils, you can have your second or third choice, even if the person, your number one doesn't make it, and instead of, just a bad and worse kind of choice as part of that. So what are the arguments against ranked choice voting? It's too complicated. People can't understand it. And what if somebody hacks the computer program? Well, yeah, with a little bit of introduction like we did tonight, I don't think it is. And folks, are using things like this, with the stars and rules and other things. So a little bit of education, I think, can help. And once people do it the first time, they'll be very comfortable with it as part of that. And what if somebody hacks the computer program? Well, as your paper ballot is handed and scanned in, you have no idea what happens to it. Everything is done by computer now. The same hacking risk exists, and you just have the safeguards against that. And ranked choice voting doesn't really change that as part of that. So where's ranked choice voting used?
Bill, just sorry, just a second. I mean, if there had to be a hand recount or something, I mean, it would be quite tough to do it with ranked choice voting, right? I mean, that I understand that what you're saying, but for a lot of people, this is a major issue. Okay, the safety of the elections and being able to get a recount. I mean, a hand recount would be pretty difficult.
There's like, because Australia's been doing this for so long, there are ways to do it. It's a little bit longer, but there are ways to take the paper ballots and still be able to do that tally, right?
I agree. It's quite time consuming. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we have to explain, that like the hacking of the voting machines is going to occur with our current system, and it's going to occur with the ranked choice voting. That needs to have its protections and everything that's built into it. Ranked choice voting isn't designed to take care of that, but it is traceable still, and you still can use it with paper ballots. And it's done for many.
But it would be much more expensive to do it. If you have to do a hand recount, it would be quite a bit.
Yeah, you're right. That would be more expensive.
Okay. All right. I got it. Thanks.
Sure. Good question.
So there is some good support for ranked choice voting nationally. Alaska has both ranked choice voting and an all candidate primary we'll talk about in a minute. Republicans and Democrats, they made a major push in November to get ranked choice voting done away with, but the Alaskans wouldn't do that, and they, despite strong support from Trump, they went ahead and decided to keep the ranked choice voting, and with that chose a moderate Republican over a Trump-backed MAGA candidate as part of that.
Because Maine already also has ranked choice voting, no?
Yes.
Yeah, and here in the Washington D.C. area, Tacoma Park, has had that locally for quite some time. Yeah, okay.
Very true.
So one of the questions we often get asked is, well, doesn't Maryland have to adopt it? And the answer is no. This is already adopted in Tacoma Park, and right now at the city level, Annapolis, Frederick, and Hyattsville are strongly considering it and are very likely to adopt it. There's some good interest in Rockford. At the city level, it can be adopted and implemented. And as Pete said, the voting machines are there and ready to use. If it gets to the county level, then Annapolis has to say, okay, you've adopted it, but they have to give it an okay. But our whole approach is to support the interest in voting reform, and ranked choice voting's got the most interest to support that. And get that adopted in the cities, and then grow that to the county level to the point where Annapolis doesn't have a choice, but they have to go ahead and adopt it statewide.
Yeah.
So, any other comments, thoughts on ranked choice voting?
So clarify just a few steps further. So Annapolis takes care of all national elections and all countywide elections. So we cannot get ranked choice voting until Annapolis passes at the county and the state level. But every city can run their own elections in their own way. And so that's really the door in that we have, is like Tacoma Park and Rockville and Frederick and the various other different places. Even Annapolis City itself is looking at putting this forward. The cities can do these independently, and that's where we're trying to help and support.
There was a big effort in the Montgomery County about a couple of years ago, maybe more. We were trying to push for ranked choice voting in Montgomery County, and the legislature nixed it. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
They actually came back and they told us, because we were around in some of those conversations or in the follow-ups on them, and they basically said we need to see it working at the city level first, and then we'll take this bill up in the state legislature. So they've already told us they are not going to pass it at the state level until we get the cities transitioned. So that's why we're focusing on the cities, and anything we can do to help transition a city helps us to get it statewide.
Thanks. Yep.
So we are members of a very strong coalition of different groups really looking to push that. And Ranked Choice Voting Maryland is kind of leading that. League of Women Voters and a number of other organizations, all part of that. And so one of the things they're doing is on Saturday, they're having a whole movie right around ranked choice voting at 10 o'clock in Annapolis. And folks are certainly welcome to join that and learn more about it. And we're just trying to build as much understanding and support for this kind of improvement in our election process. So anybody else have any thoughts about ranked choice voting before we move on to our second priority?
I'll just mention real quickly, I put the link. You can go to our page there, which is in the slide, but also in the chat, I put the link directly to the sign up for this movie screening.
Great, thanks, Pete. So second area we're looking at is primaries. And in Maryland right now, we have two primaries, and we, the taxpayers, pay the Republicans to run a primary and pay the Democrats to do a primary. And other than paying the bill, we have no say. They have total control over the primary, who's on it, everything to do with it. And, if you're on social media at all, you've seen some posts where, Trump has said to Republicans, if you don't support me, you won't even be on the primary ballot when you come up for re-election. And he may very well have that kind of power. So how can we fix that? How can we make that better? So we're suggesting an all-candidate primary that has all voters and all the candidates on one ballot, all the voters, all the political parties in one place, and gives us a chance to make that choice and gets more people involved with that process. So how do candidates get on the ballot? So right now, there are three political parties that Maryland recognizes that can put people on the ballot: the Democrats, the Republicans, and the Green Party. Over 20% of the registered voters in Maryland are independent, but as I mentioned, that political party hasn't been in operation for 14 years. So really they're unaffiliated. And everything is really done, and the Green Party doesn't do a primary, so independents can't vote, and moderates don't really have any choices that make any sense to them. So one of the things I hear about on social media is, well, open primaries. That's what we need to do, is open up the primaries. And I get a couple of emails a week about, let's support open primaries. And the concept is great, but in the implementation of open primaries, there's been some limitations. Essentially what Republicans and Democrats have done in a couple of states have said, okay, there's one primary, it's an open primary, everybody come in. But you select the Democratic ballot or the Republican ballot, and that's all your choices you get, okay? The independents are still locked out, and you get our hand-picked choices, one or the other. Okay? So we still don't have the moderates and the others that we want to get involved in, especially the independents, in that process. So an open primary has some limitations. So what we're really focusing on is an all-candidate primary. All the registered voters can vote in that one primary, and every candidate from every political party is on that ballot. And we're only paying for one primary instead of two, which is good for us as part of that. So what are the arguments against an all-candidate primary? Well, again, we get that too confusing, same as we have with ranked choice voting. People don't know who to vote for. Well, Congress has got a 20% approval rate and a re-election rate of 94%. Let's vote for some different people. Let's vote for people who want to pay attention to us and listen to us and do the things we want instead of playing party politics. Get the complaint, people will vote for the weakest candidates from the other parties, so their preferred candidate will have a better choice. Well, if everybody does that, we have only the weakest choices. But let's get some independents and moderates. Let's get some fresh faces and people with good qualifications in there and give us some better choices as part of that. So, second thing we're looking at is, let's get Maryland to stop at the city and county level up to Annapolis, at the statewide level eventually, a all-candidate primary at each level that opens it up to all the political parties, and hopefully by the end of 2026, we'll have a fourth party, the forward party, putting candidates in there as well, and give us more choices and a chance to get better people involved. When we do that, we have four parties, and each has got 2 or 3 candidates. So all of a sudden, that primary, all-candidate primary, you can have 8, 10, 12 people on that list. Well, who gets on the ballot in November as part of that? That's where we need ranked choice voting, so that the county, the city, the county, or the state can say, we're going to pick the final 4 or the top 5 out of that, and ranked choice voting will determine who those people are. Okay, and maybe there's 3 Democrats, 1 Republican, 1 Florist. But those are the 5 people that were selected. But we've got a process that can do that and give us the people that have the most support to be on the ballot in November. So that's what all candidate primaries are about. So any questions or thought about all candidate primaries?
Steve's got his hand up. Go for it, Steve.
Yes, two comments. One, the candidates are still selected by the parties, right? I mean, that doesn't change. The question is, isn't the system, the all candidate primary, isn't that what California has with the top 2 system?
Yeah, that's the crux of it there. So because California does the 2 candidate thing, it's whoever gets the top 2 votes goes on to the national election. And that we're not actually, a lot of RCP folks are not a favor of California's system, because it's actually designed to try to get 2 Democrats on the ballot in the fall and nobody else has a chance.
Okay, so but it's open primaries. I mean, everybody, all voters can vote on all candidates. What you don't like and what we don't like is the fact that is the top 2 vote getters, and that's where ranked choice voting would improve things. But in terms of concept of all voters being able to vote for any of all the candidates, that's the case in California.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Versus Alaska, which has like top 4.
I see. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
So, Steve, one minor clarification to your question. So, in Maryland, registered political parties can put candidates on the ballot for them. An individual can get on the ballot if they're not part of one of those parties, but they have to go through a process the same as a political party has to do to be recognized by Maryland, which is a significant number of signatures on a paper ballot and going through a screening process. It's very, very difficult. It can happen, okay? And then that person would be running unaffiliated as part of that. We had an interesting situation in the November election, with Governor Hogan running for the Senate. And I can't tell you the number of people that I talked to when I was a strong Hogan supporter, worked on his campaign, who said if he ran as independent, I'd vote for him, but I can't vote for him as Republican. But there is no independent party in Maryland. He couldn't do that. He could run as a Democrat, Republican, or independent, and those were the choice, or Green Party. And he had to run as a Republican and take all the Trump baggage and lose as a result of that. But with an all-candidate primary, again, we'll have more parties bringing there, and again, other people who go through that process can come in as an unaffiliated as well if they can get those signatures and be part of that process.
Thanks.
So we're really suggesting as the answer, an all candidates primary at the city level, at the county level, and eventually at the state level, to give us a chance to bring more people involved in that process, bring independents in, bring moderates in, and I'm a lifelong Republican, but a moderate, and I'm totally left out, and very few Republicans that I can support as part of that. And I'd really like a chance to get more people involved who have the same kind of priorities that I have as part of that. That's one of the reasons why I joined the Forward Party, to try and get some of those things to happen. The arguments against this is, again, more candidates for each office is confusing. People will know who to vote for. So, third thing we want to talk about is gerrymandering. So, what's wrong with Maryland as now? How do we get this fixed? And what are the arguments against it? So, what is gerrymandering? So, Wikipedia has a definition here. So, if we look at the simple diagram, okay, we've got this area, we're dividing up into 3 districts: the West District, the East District, and the Central District. But the West District is mostly west, the East District is sort of west, and the Central District's all over the place. Okay, and that's more and more how things happen. So let's take a look at what Maryland has today in terms of their congressional districts. So the 6th district in the west is kind of makes sense, and Maryland 1 on the east makes sense. But let's take a look at Maryland 3, okay, which wanders all over the place in terms of where they are, okay, or Maryland 4 as part of that, and 7. We've got some crazy districts. Why is that? So districts are defined by the party in power. Party in power is the Democrats. And what they're looking to do is to get as many Republicans in the few districts as possible, so the Democrats win all the other districts. Districts have got to be basically equal population to each, so they're winding the definitions on all over the place to get the most Republicans in the fewest districts and the most Democrats in the most districts, and we get these crazy kind of things. So if we compare that to what do the counties in Maryland look like, okay, they're fairly logical. And what we're suggesting is an independent redistricting committee that can take a look at how can we take sensible districts, sensible regions like this, and make them approximately equal in population as size, but not have the kind of crazy things that we have now all over the place. So the argument against that, well, only we know how to draw electoral districts. Any change to change that is just hurting our candidates. Well, the party in power is definitely saying that because they're in control, and the parties that not in power is not happy because they're being locked out. We need to get party politics out of the election districts and be able to define sensible districts, fair districts, and be able to give us more choices and people who represent us instead of being all over the map as part of this. So, any thoughts, questions about gerrymandering and kind of how we need to fix that?
Just a quick comment is that the map, the 2010 map from the previous cycle was even worse than the one that you showed. And so there was a big effort before in 2018, 2019 to try to get the legislature to accept the idea of a independent redistricting commission. And in parallel with the effort in Maryland, there was an effort in Virginia, and the effort in Virginia more or less succeeded. They were able to get some type of a commission, not totally nonpartisan, but I think it was improvement. Unfortunately, in Maryland, there was no real progress along those lines.
One of our thoughts is, as we look forward, as I said, we've got 20% of the registered voters in Maryland are totally locked out. They're independents. And a number of surveys have indicated a lot of dissatisfaction in moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats that stay in the party because they have no other choice. We believe the Forward Party, by putting together a strong program to support moderates and independents, could become a significant political party in Maryland and be a voice that can start to look at making some of the changes, like, you know, the independent commission that are needed.
See, we have a hand raised also from Detailer.
Yes, question about the congressional districts in Maryland right now. We have 8. Is it likely that obviously there'll be no change until after the 2030 census? Is that correct?
Yes.
So, so that could definitely have some impact. You know, I wonder if there's any chance that after that census, Maryland will lose, you know, perhaps one congressional seat. I don't know, just a just a thought.
Yeah. I can't look out that far.
All right.
Yeah, I forget exactly what the law is, but I think you're correct in that the opportunity to redraw the districts only comes up when the census comes around.
Yeah,
That's
everything.
what I assume.
Nothing else that we can do until 2030, but we can get our ducks in a row and try to get more people elected who are in favor of gerrymandering. So when 2030 comes around, we have more people who will raise their hand in the state legislature and say, I am in favor of fixing this.
One other point related to the issue about cities, I did a quick check online at census.gov, and according to that source, there are 29 cities in the state of Maryland. So
29 possibilities for ranked choice voting.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So our fourth priority is kind of a little bit unique to Maryland. And so we have 200 members of the legislature, and 50 of those members were not elected into the legislature. They were appointed. So how does this happen, and how does it get fixed? So in August, of last year, Teresa Warman was sworn in to the 16th district. Delegate Sarah Love had been promoted to a higher position, okay, and that seat was open. And so Warman received 14 votes and took office representing that district. Now, I don't know if any of those 14 people lived in that district, okay, in terms of representing her, but that's how it happened. So how do we fix that? How can we make that happen? Once they're incumbents, then they have a much easier chance of getting reelected as part of that process. So what we have been working hard on is the idea of special elections, and anytime that there is an opening, that there should be a special election that is used. Folks, lost my screen. I'm just. Okay.
I can still see the screen. You're still good.
Okay. All right. I just got a message on my screen that got me a little confused there. Sorry about that. So we're suggesting special elections, and there's been a bill that we've strongly supported, to go ahead and approve special elections. Last year, that bill did not get out of committee. This year, we built enough support. It got out of committee. But, Pete, I believe last I heard, it doesn't look like it's going to get passed this year. Got more support, but not enough to get elected. Any update you have on that?
Let me double check real quick, but I think this did not make it. Yeah, I'll double check here, but I don't know that this passed out of the state house.
So the arguments that against doing a special election is that costs money and takes time to run a special election, and that seat's not filled until that, okay? And we don't need vacancies. We need to get people in office. our position is we need to get people in office who are representing the people in those districts and are chosen by those people. And we don't need a committee deciding who represents them. The people should make that decision. So we want to have Maryland adopt special elections. So, when Alston Brooks won the Senate seat, Prince George's County did the special election. That's the way it should be. Okay, and that's what we want to have at the state legislature, where any openings need to be filled with that. So we're going to continue to build a strong level of support to have that passed and adopted in Maryland. So any thoughts, questions about how we deal with those legislative vacancies and special elections as a better alternative?
And I'll give a quick update here, which is that I just confirmed this. It did actually pass out of the House and it passed out of the Senate, and it is slated to be signed by the governor. So this one actually did pass.
Oh, great. Okay. The last I heard, it was looking good. So thanks for that update, Pete.
That's progress.
Yeah.
So the last of the initiatives that we have is how can we give people an opportunity to better make the people in office understand their priorities, their needs. So what are the things that are important to you? And different communities have different things that are important. So Pete's leading the effort for the Maryland Forward Party to totally redesign our website. And to do that, some of our folks are young voters and some of them are in senior living communities, and they have very different needs and priorities. How do we put together a message that both understand and both feel we're meeting their needs and we're not supporting one versus the other? So we've looked at these sets of communities and have defined and established them. We've got different of our volunteers and supporters join some of those. So it's an early effort to get that started, but we'd really love to have active groups in all these different areas coming to us and saying, these are the things we need. These are our priorities. This is the message that the Forward Party needs to deliver to us to build support and to become a significant political party in Maryland. So we're looking to get, again, this level of effort of folks involved, and we're hoping some of you tonight, will be interested in joining us, getting involved in some role, maybe in one of these or one or more of the committees, or in other roles as part of that. But we're really looking to how to give people more of a voice and be able to give our legislative affairs who testifies in terms of the policies, writes white papers, does email campaigns in support of some bills, in opposition to others, and then the candidates we support and want to get reelected, are they meeting your needs and are the kind of people that you want? So we're trying to get this granular level of activity and folks more involved. And we're hoping some of you may choose to, this is a way that you want to get involved with us and be part of one or more of these communities. Pete, anything you want to add to that?
Not a whole lot. So we're still sort of feeling this out as far as how this goes, but we want to make sure that we are representing all voters, make sure we're representing all residents, of Maryland. And this is one of those things that different groups are going to have different needs. And if it's too easy when everybody's in one pool for some voices to get drowned out. So this is our run at this, our attempt to try to find those niche issues that people need solved by getting people together. So when you see this come through or it gets put out an email and you see something that is similar to what a group that you care about, please join and help us to form these things and make them better. Give us feedback and help us grow, help these things grow.
Thanks, Pete. So I'm going to take just a couple of minutes, and some of you may not be familiar with the Forward Party, so I'm going to do 2 quick slides kind of summarizing who we are in trying to promote and do these things and how we fit into that, and then talk briefly about a very exciting meeting that we have planned next month for that. And then we're going to turn off the recording and open the floor and be here as long as you want to have questions, comments, disagree, agree, whatever, as part of that for our session. So Maryland Forward Party is associated with the National Forward Party and looking at how to do these key things in Maryland. Our values are more collaboration, less conflict, better governance, and protecting the rights of all people, things like the communities that we just talked about as part of that. We believe more unites us than divides us, unlike our two major political parties who are all about dividing us as part of that. So we're different in a number of different ways. First of all, we're not trying to trumpet things at the national level. We're doing a grassroots level, at the city level, city council, board of ed, getting better candidates in there and people who support the kind of ideas we have, bringing it up to the county level and getting that support to be adopted at the statewide level. We also don't have a platform on major issues like immigration and Middle East and Ukraine and abortion and the economy. And that's one size fits all. And very few people agree on everything about all those things. Our platform is, let's identify intelligent, ethical people who make good decisions and put those people in office. Some of those decisions we're not going to agree with, but we're going to have people who are trustworthy and making good decisions and are listening to us. And let's find those people and put them in office as part of that. And let's help those candidates, those people in office understand our needs and be able to communicate with us. So very quickly, that's our different approach and what we're trying to do. Any questions, thoughts about this is the Forward Party. And I will offer, if folks want to know more, have any questions, happy just to do a one-on-one 30-minute phone call with you. Not selling you on anything, not asking you for money, not asking you to sign anything, just answering your questions. So, happy to follow up with folks who want to learn a little more or are part of this. So let me just, again, pause here for any thoughts, comments, questions folks have. Okay, our next meeting is going to be Tuesday the 27th. We do this once a month. And, at our March meeting, we had a lot of folks interested in the discussion we're having and taking a specific issue and diving down on it more. So Pete, who's been joining me as part of this discussion, is going to lead our discussion in May about, are we facing a constitutional crisis? One of the great things Pete brings to the Forward Party is a way of having this kind of discussion that's not a debate, that doesn't focus on things dividing us. It focuses on consensus and focuses on priorities. So Pete, turn it over to you a little bit to talk about our plans for next month.
Yeah, we'll get into more of the detail. If you were here last month in March, we talked a bit about this format. We got into that and we ran a vote about what do we want to do in April and May. And so we decided to go across the basics in April and come back and do an actual simulated pep talk in May. And so this is what we're following up on. So you can watch the video from last month's, from March's all volunteer meeting, and that will show you some of the details and the theories behind it. We'll also do a quick introduction next month when we present this, but then we're going to hop in and you can learn more about it just by doing it. We've done these quite a few different times. What's really great about these types of approaches is that it really gives everybody a chance to talk and be heard, but in a respectful way. And we talk about the problems that we want to solve instead of fighting about how we solve those problems. So that's what we want to do next month, is introduce this new type of debate and give you a chance to experience it. And this will be one of the topic that we'll put at the center of it. And so we've got some starter questions, but you can come and bring your own questions. So what we're basically looking at, what problems are being caused by the non-adherence to the Constitution, and what problems are people trying to solve by not adhering to the Constitution. And then through that conversation, I think we're going to bubble up some really nice thoughtful conversations between people.
One of my favorite quotes in history is Winston Churchill, and he said, you know, democracy is the worst form of government that we've ever had, except for all the others. So that's some of the inefficiency that we're, you know, dealing with that frustrates some people, but the strength that comes from having those checks and balances. So I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. I hope you all join us. I hope you know, any folks you think might be interested, to encourage them to join us as well. So at this point, we're going to turn off the recording and open the floor up for any questions, comments, thoughts you have. I will be sending all of you the link to this recording. You're welcome to share with anybody that you think might be interested. If you didn't get the slides that I sent out, let me know, and I'll send you a copy of the slides as well. And the talk track that I had is part of the slides as well. So, you know, if you're interested and kind of want to learn more and be able to talk about things from our perspective, hopefully that will be good for you and can help you as well. So the floor is open to anybody who would like that, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.